Hey guys, so today we're going to be looking at this person's a psychopath moment. So yeah, let's just get right into the video. I've been a public school teacher for a decade. I've only ever been scared of one student. First of all, this was in my first few years of teaching. This student was of myth in my school. I taught in an alternative school for students that had been expelled from every other school, but overall my students were chill. They weren't good students, but if you met them at their level, things were usually fine. The exception was JT. JT was a sophomore when I met him, but at that point, I didn't teach him, but boy did I hear about him. Somehow his mum was able to game the paperwork and education system enough that kid was unpunishable. So much so that this kid literally pushed an 8-month pregnant teacher down and he was back 2 weeks later. He could literally punch a kid in the mouth and be back 2 days later, and because of this, he was just a massive problem. How? What? How does that work? How is he unpunishable? You know what I mean? Like, why is he at school if he's like this? Like, literally, go to the mental hospital. Kids don't just randomly like to push pregnant teachers downstairs. This kid is mental. The first terrifying discovery for me was that his mum was very vocal about not wanting him home because she was scared of him. She had a good reason to be. JT, as a small child, tried to murder his family by lighting the house on fire, specifically trying to murder his brother by duct taping him to his bed while he slept. His brother survived but had horrific burns, but somehow that didn't stop him from supporting his almost murderous brother. JT was ruthless, but he was also about 5'4", and his brother was about 6 foot and much physically stronger. I finally had the pleasure of teaching JT in his senior year. He had approximately 10 credits, all gym-based, and was nowhere near graduation. My first note was that this is the only kid I've ever met that just had nothing going on behind his eyes. He was shark-like. He never smiled or laughed unless someone got hurt. Cruel for cruelty's sake. One day, JT wasn't there, which frankly was odd. He had a great drug business going at school, and he only had to avoid one cop. The next day, we found out why he wasn't there. JT murdered a kid. Shot him in the face for $12 and a little bit of weed. His lawyer tried to get his sentence lowered by arguing that it was technically his first offense since everything else happened when he was a kid. He got 25 to life. I mean, I'm glad he's finally in prison, but the fact that he could do all that before he killed a kid and not get in trouble is crazy. He had all the signs of a psychopath and nobody did anything about it. I don't get it. Seriously, I do not get it. The kid that he killed didn't have to die if someone did something about it. Maybe get your kid some help. Admit them to something instead of just sending them away to school. Was walking my dog down a main road on lead. A lady was walking her dog off lead. Her dog stopped in the road, causing cars to stop. She had no control of it. Her dog lunged for my dog. I asked her to put her dog on a lead. She said she would stamp on my dog's head and let her dog kill mine. I knew it wasn't even worth arguing with crazy, so I carried on with my walk. She then set her house on fire 2 weeks later with her children inside. Luckily they were okay, but yeah, madness. Yeah, madness. What is wrong with her? Imagine what the kids had to go through before that. Jeez. Yeah, I hope the kids are in someone else's hands. Because oh hell no. After moving to a new city a few years ago, my best friend came to visit. We're both 30-something dudes. We were out at a bar when a guy asked to sit with us because there weren't any free tables outside. Fine. Being polite, we start talking to the guy. He told us he was a truck driver just stopping overnight in town, and at some point mentioned he was ex-military. From there, things began to get strange, but slowly. Not only was he in the military, but he also had a brother. It might have been a twin, I can't recall. He was in the CIA, embedded in Russia. My friend and I also gradually got the sense that this guy was a little too interested in us. We eventually closed our tabs and decided to go to a different bar. But the guy stuck with us, telling increasingly tall tales about his time in the military. He eventually confessed that there was no brother. He was the spy who'd been embedded in Russia. What struck me was how even though his stories got more and more ridiculous, his demeanor was deadly serious, if a bit overwrought. And the intensity was starting to make my skin crawl. Not only that, but he was starting to pick fights with other people at the bar, deliberately being belligerent. Over time, he started to radiate this menacing air that hadn't been apparent when we first started talking to him. He didn't get angry directly at us, but it was like he was demonstrating how scary he could be and suggesting we stay on his good side. Finally, he took me aside and slipped into a not very convincing Russian accent. Alas, he was never a spy for the US. He was a double agent, a one-man Russian sleeper cell, but he couldn't bear lying to me. He had to come clean. Even though we had open tabs at the bar, my friend and I waited until the guy went to the bathroom, abandoned our cards, and dipped post-haste. Excuse me. What the hell is going on here? I would have definitely gotten punched by this man because I would have laughed. He really was like, there's no brother. I am the spy. I just know if I was out with my friends and this is what we heard, we'd just be cackling. I mean, at least he didn't hurt anyone. I hope he gets help. Like, I feel like there is something wrong with him and I do hope he gets some help. At a party once, I met a friend of a friend who worked as a nurse at a local hospital. She was of the sort who would sigh heavily and would use the unique stresses of her job to bring her the attention she was looking for. She took the spotlight with pleasure and started talking about how hard her job was. When I asked if there were things she liked about her job, she beamed and explained that she worked primarily in maternity. However, her anecdotes had nothing to do with the mothers or infants. She spoke primarily of how wonderful it is to be in charge of these women's lives. She explained how fragile they were in those moments, and how even after delivery, she was the only one on the floor of hours who would be able to forecast if there was going to be life-changing complications. She absolutely glowed as she explained how these people's lives were in her hands. The conversation steered in other directions amongst partygoers, but she reclaimed it on the topic of high school experiences. She shared an anecdote on how she was rejected for an advanced choir position, and blamed it solely on the poor judgment of the instructor. Years later, she got to sing at the instructor's funeral. I'll never forget the pride she took in having control over other people's lives. It struck me as the most basic display of evil. Ew! Yeah. What the hell is wrong with her? Instead of being like, oh yes, I love my job because I just get to take care of people. No, she was like, I love my job because if I don't do this, they would die. Yo, okay, that's a different turn now. This woman is definitely crazy. Ain't no way she's like going back to like a high school story and then being like, yeah, but he's dead now and I got to sing at his funeral. Like, girl, you're not that cool, okay? You're not cool at all. My ex-fiance told me if I were to get pregnant with a girl before a boy, he would push me down the stairs and make me miscarry so we could have a boy first, as many times as it took. We broke up, and afterwards he convinced me to talk things over with him. I got into his car and he proceeded to calmly explain to me that it didn't matter if I took him back or not as he headed to the expressway. I asked where we were going and he remained absolutely silent. He started gaining speed, but the pitch in his voice never changed when we finally spoke and began a speech about our love and how we would be together forever. No matter how many people wanted to pull us apart, and no matter if I saw it yet or not, I again asked him where we were going, and he said neighboring state, where no one would know or find us, with a very creepy smile, one that lives in my mind to this day, but I can't recreate. I had to call my mother and she had to talk him down and beg him to bring me back home. When I was back home and refused to see him, he stood outside my family home through all hours of the night and started singing songs to me over the phone about how he was going to burn my house down and kill everyone inside if I wouldn't go outside and talk to him. This is so freaking scary. She must have been so scared in the car. What would you guys have done? At this point, I would have just fought for the steering wheel. No, who cares? You know what? Who cares? Okay, we're both going down then. We're both going down. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going down because of you. I'm going down because of me. When I turned down a guy while walking back to my car with groceries in hand, and when I got to my car, he put up next to mine and kept asking for a hug. I was like, F no in my head, but I told him I got a boyfriend, sorry. He left and I got in my car and kept an eye out to make sure his car wasn't following mine. Not trying to stereotype cars, but just made it creepier. I mean, an all blacked out van. Yeah, that's suspicious. He wanted a hug because he wanted to pull her into his van. But seriously, why the hell would anyone want to hug a stranger while they're grocery shopping? Man would be like, hey, can I get a hug? As if that's not creepy. As a kid, I had a friend whose mum would rent out their connecting house. The man that lives there kept to himself but seemed nice. If he saw me or my friend, he would let us pet his bird that he always seemed to have with him. Apparently, he quit paying rent, so he was kicked out. The woman that owned the house never checked if it was keeping the place decent. I offered to help clean because I just wanted to be with my friend. The mum unlocked the door and went to her house to get cleaning things, so I went into the place before she got back. When I opened the door, I was met with an awful sense of dead rats everywhere, some in traps, some with their heads just cut off, and I think peanut butter smeared all on the floor and smeared on the walls. I was horrified, but for whatever reason, I felt like I had to look at the rest of the house because it was more of some stuff. Trash, dead rats, and some broken things. Bathtub had rats thrown in it. This next part though kills me and I can still vividly see it. I opened the closet and I see his bird hanging on a string with all its feathers gone, obviously dead. I cried and ran out after that. For a while I had a huge fear, like maybe the guy knew where I lived and would come for me for finding his secret. He killed his pet bird? What is wrong with him? Seriously, yes, he's a psycho. This is why you never know someone until you're in their home. For sure. Well, that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Tell me in the comments down below what your thoughts are. And as always, thanks for watching. Hope you guys liked it. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!